everyone, my name is Ritesh and today I'll discuss the current affairs issue. So today I'll discuss farm laws because the government has repealed all these farm laws. So we'll discuss all these farm laws, what are the reasons behind the protest and what are the basic features and what are the arguments in favor and in against these laws. So why this was in news? So the recently Prime Minister has announced that repeal of these three laws in our country, right? You must have noticed how these laws has been passed if you have seen the video, right? So recently Prime Minister announced that these laws will be repealed, and which happened actually. So let us understand the key points with related to this topic. First one is that the agriculture as a subject comes under the state list, and these are the three bills. First bill is Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act. Now, if you consider this act, it is aimed at there are so many stories with respect to all these acts, but if you have to remember these acts, just focus on keywords. First act, you have to remember that trade and commerce comes in place, right? So again, in this first act, the government expands the scope of trade areas of farmers produce from select areas to any place. Now, in this act, the government enhanced the scope of trade areas. They are saying that the existing mandi, earlier the farmers can sell their products in existing mandis. Now they are expanding these trade areas. It means that they are saying that you can sell your product not only just in mandis but also to some other areas too. Now, this bill prohibits state government from levying any market fee on this, right? And the act also seeks to break the monopoly of government regulated mandis and allow farmers to sell directly to private buyers. Now, earlier the monopoly was given to government regulated mandis, right? But now through this act, the government tried to allow farmers to sell directly their products to the private players, right? So these are the things. Next one is Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. Now again, just focus on Farm Services Act. Now in this, there's a term called contract farming, right? So it provides a framework for contract farming. In contract farming, there's a written farming agreement entered into prior to the production or rearing of any farm produce. Now, what happened is before even producing some products, the farmer will get a written agreement with the corporate entities or a corporate business, so they can make an agreement that what kind of product they want. They can manage their price also, that how much they are willing to pay for that product, and they'll get a written agreement for all these things before the production or rearing of these products. Now, not only the farming agreement, but also this act defines a dispute resolution mechanism, right? And which provide three level of dispute resolution mechanism, which is first one is conciliation board, second is subdivisional magistrate, and third one is appellate authority. Now this bill covers the contract farming and the dispute resolution mechanism, right? And last one is Essential Commodities Act 2020. Now this act aimed at removing commodities such as cereals, pulses, oil seeds, edible oils from the list of essential commodities. Now what happened is in Essential Commodities Act, the government is saying that they are removing these products from the list of Essential Commodities Act, right? So now what happened is private players can hoard these products because they don't fall within the ambit of Essential Commodities Act. So now private entities can basically stock all these products that don't come under the ambit of Essential Commodities Act, right? Next is, what are the reasons for enacting? Now this whole issue has been covered in the early 2000s also, and center cannot make such law because it falls under the state list. So there are so many efforts by central government, but all these efforts have been failed from the central point of view, because state government covers this agriculture because it comes under the state list, right? So earlier it was all about the they even in 2003 they designed a model APMC Act and circulated it among the states, but states don't recognize them actually. So again, now they find a loophole. Now in 2020 they find a loophole that how we can arrange all these things, right? So there's a now what are the reasons behind the protest that has been happening, right? First is repelling the farm laws. They want these farm laws to be repelled. Second is they are feared that these big corporations will dominate the whole agricultural activities, right? Farmers are aware that if you privatize these things, now private entities will come and they will dominate the whole farming activities. They will dominate these small and marginal farmers through these acts, right? And third one is the MSP issue. The third demand actually is farmers is the guarantee of MSP, which government does not give to the farmers. So they want a guarantee of MSP to ensure procurements of crops at suitable prices. So MSP stands for minimum support price, that this is the minimum price that you will get paid for this product, right? And they want a they want a recognition, they want a guarantee of MSP for that product, right? And also the farmers organizations want the APMC or mandis to be protected, and they don't want that to dissolve very easily, right? That's why they are protesting over this. Now farmers are also demanding to get a written assurance in the form of bill for the continuation of a MSP and conventional. Now they want a written agreement with respect to MSP, that they want, okay, this is the MSP of these products, so they want a written agreement with respect to this too. And what is important is the Swaminathan Commission with respect to the MSP. Now the farmers are demanding MSP as recommended by the Swaminathan Commission. Now what Swaminathan Commission has said, that it states that the government should raise the MSP to at least 50% more than the weighted average cost of production, right? So this whole MSP thing comes from the Swaminathan Commission report. It says that MSP should be raised to at least 50% more than the weighted average cost of production, right? So this is the formula, actually it is known as the C2 plus 50% formula. Now this formula includes the imputed cost of capital and rent on land called C2 to give farmers 50% return. So it is basically 50% more than the weighted average cost of production, right? Now what are the arguments in favor of these acts? Let's discuss that. Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act, first act. Now again I have said that this Trade and Commerce Act actually covers the existing mandis. They want to break the monopoly of government regulated mandis, and they want these farmers to sell their product directly to the private buyers and not just to the existing mandis anymore, right? So the first one is that the act seeks to break the monopoly of regulated mandis, right? So they are enhancing the scope of trade areas, just this. Now the farmers will have full autonomy over the products that whom they want to sell their products to, right? Earlier it was the mandi process. Now they will have an option to sell their things in mandis and also to the corporate firms also, right? Next is the act is expected to increase through this act farmers will have what? Freedom of choice of sale, right? So they'll have a freedom of choice of sale of these agricultural products. Last one is it is expected to pave the way for the creation of a one India, one agriculture market, and this also have provisions of electronic trading as well. Now this act, Farm Trade and Commerce Act, will also have the provisions of electronic trading as well, right? Now come to the second act, which is Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. Now this act revolves around the contract farming and the dispute resolution mechanism involved in this contract farming. Now what happened is, if you have contract farming, it will help farmers to reduce the cost of marketing and improve their incomes, right? And then farmers will engage in direct marketing with these private players, thereby eliminate the intermediaries. Now the farmers don't have to deal with the third party, which is basically the intermediaries that are involved, right? They directly deal with the corporate firms to sell their products. right? And through this contract farming, the private players will also give them a research and scientific temperament to these farmers to enhance the quality of these products, right? So the modern technology access will also enhance the quality of production for these farmers, and this will also increase the income of these farmers, right? The act also seeks to encourage private sector participation in these areas, right, and reduce the government burden of procuring. Earlier it was that the government have to procure all these agricultural products. Now this act seeks to encourage the private sector participation, so now the private players will procure all these things, right? And effective dispute resolution has been provided within the time limit. So if a dispute comes, there's a certain time limit in which the dispute has to be resolved under this act, right? Next is Essential Commodities Act. Now through this act, government is actually attracting foreign investment into the agriculture sector, right? There are certain provisions that are saying that we are removing certain products from these Essential Commodities Act, so that the resources comes in our country in the agriculture sector, because agriculture sector actually want to improve very badly, because see, there are so many people that are being affected by this agriculture thing, and there are so many people that are getting employed in these areas, right? And still the GDP, the contribution towards the GDP is very less in this by this sector, right? So we have to encourage this thing, right? And private companies will actually encourage, even they will enhance the profit making aspect of this sector, right? Now if you consider the economic survey 2019-20, which analyzed the Essential Commodities Act, notes that the government intervention under this act often distorted agricultural trade while being totally ineffective. So this is a data which says that the economic survey analyzed the Essential Commodities Act and says that the government intervention under this Essential Commodities Act distorted agricultural trade and totally being ineffective in curbing the inflation process, right? So they are saying that even if government are protecting under this Essential Commodities Act, still we don't see any results that benefit the farmers, that benefit in curbing the inflation process, right? And they also says that even if the Essential Commodities Act is being there, in which you can't hoard or just stock certain products, still there's a law there that says that you can't you can't hoard these products. But even this act is there, still private companies are not very much interested in hoarding these products, because these are perishable products. They don't want any risks, because they are there for profit making, right? So they don't hoard these products because these are very perishable products. It will get perish over time. So they don't hoard actually. So why there's a need of such law? Just remove these commodities from these act, right? So these are the arguments in favor. Now let's discuss the argument against the act. First is that the agriculture and markets are state subjects, right? So the act basically is being as a direct encroachment upon the function of the state, right? And it is against the spirit of cooperative federalism, right? So it is against the state. These subjects are fall under the state list. So why do center encroach upon the function of the state? First argument is this. Second is that the creation of private mandis will drive agriculture business toward private mandis, ending government markets, intermediary system and PMCs. Now again, if a private player comes into this sector, they'll encourage the profit making, yes, but farmers are not getting aware of these kind of situations. They are very feared by this move. See, when you implement the act, just make an impact assessment of this act too, that how this will affect, why they will accept this act, what are the reasons, right? Create an awareness of this first, then implement this act. The government just implement this act and the farmers are not getting aware of all the situations, right? So they are having feared with the whole process, right? Next, mandis bring revenue for state government. Now state government can't levy any market fee, so state governments are of the opinion that you can't do that because we are generating income from this market fee and taxes, right? Even middlemen working with there are various people that are living through the by the intermediaries, right? So middlemen working with the APMC will also get affected. That's why there are so many protests in and around the country, right? There's an example that a state-led attempt in Bihar to deregulate the APMC in 2006 has not resulted in increasing farmers. Again, there's a factual argument that even in 2006 the government of Bihar was doing the same thing, but it has not resulted in an increase in income of farmers. So why are you doing this over the whole country, right? And also there's an argument that without government intervention, the policy will be harmful to the communities because private players will only focus on profit making. But if you are talking about government, they actually talk about the welfare of the people and not just about the profit making. So without government intervention, maybe there are certain issues that not being noticed to the government if private players comes into this place, right? Next is the Farm Services Act argument against. So if a contract farming takes place, first issue is that the inability of these small and marginal farmers to understand the terms of the contract, right? So these are things very technical for these farmers to understand, right? So these there are so many farmers that are small and marginal, right? So these farmers cannot understand the technical terms of these contracts, and private players can also like influence these farmers. These small farmers don't have the negotiating power. If you stand next to a corporate firm, these farmers are very small. So the lack of bargaining power of farmers will also is a major concern. Now critics are apprehensive about formal contractual obligations because there are so many unorganized nature of farm sector, right? There are so many lack of resources for a legal battle with respect to a farmer. They can't afford that kind of things if a private player comes into this place, right? Next is the Essential Commodities Act. Now they are saying if you are removing these certain commodities from this act, now private players will hoard all these products. Now this is an argument that there are so many products that are not very perishable, right? They have a decent lifespan. Now if you are removing all these products, they can hoard those products which have a good lifespan. So this is a major concern over there, that private entities will do that, will hoard all these products which have a good lifespan, right? So this was the whole issue, that price trigger, they'll have the monopoly over the price of these products. They'll hoard these products, and when the price rises in the market, they will sell all these products in the market, right? So all the profit comes into the pocket of private players and not to the farmers. So the basic idea to enhance the income of these farmers is where, right? So the profit making comes in the private sector, comes to the private sector, and farmers are still at the same place in which they were before, right? Next, critical analysis of these acts. Now Article 240, you have to remember this, Article 246. Now Article 246 of the Constitution places agriculture in entry 14 and market fairs in entry 28 of the state list. Now, but entry 42 of the union list empowers the center to regulate interstate trade commerce. Now, this is the loophole. See, agriculture and market and fairs, these are the subjects of state list. Now, but entry 42 of the union list says that the center have the power to regulate interstate trade commerce. Now, this is why that's how they implement these acts, right? So because there are certain subjects that fall under the union list, right? So through this move, they actually implement these acts, that if this is happening, interstate trade commerce, this falls in the union list, and the center have the power to regulate all these things, right? Next, see, there are so many these are just factual things which are very things. If you critically analyze this act, the government is also saying that these contract cultivation is actually a voluntary in nature, that you don't have to compulsorily do that. You have an option to do that, right? You have an option for contract farming also. But still, there's an issue that first you have to make a create an awareness about these things. Now you just implemented all these decisions on these small and large farmers, so how will they understand all these concepts? So create awareness about these things, right? But still, there are international communities and like International Monetary Fund, these communities actually backed these 3 laws. They are saying that these are very beneficial for India, because agriculture needs a revolution actually, because agriculture faces lots of crisis in the sector, right? So the international communities are backing up these laws, right? Now, staying the implementation, what has the Supreme Court stayed the implementation of these 3 laws in January 2021? Now you have to remember the dates, because CLAT is expected to ask you these kind of questions with respect to the date, right? So the farm laws were in force for only 221 days. When it comes June 5th, 2020, and on January 12th, 2021, Supreme Court stayed their implementation, and now the law has been repealed. Right? Now the impact of repelling, this is a very general thing. What is the impact of repelling? Right? Now the repeal underlines that any future attempts to reform the rural agricultural economy would require a much wider consultation, right? You can't just implement the act. You have to consult so many people, stakeholders involved in the whole act, right? So there must be a wider consultation, not only just model reforms, but also consultation for the act, right? There is no doubt that this sector, agriculture sector, is actually crying for reforms, right? But you have to again consult all the stakeholders involved in this act, right? Now see, when a private player comes, the farmers will get benefit from with a scientific temperament and all, but still by repelling these laws, these will all go in vain, right? They won't afford such kind of things now, right? So these are actually the impact of repelling the laws. There are also negative impacts too, but also positive impacts, that farmers are actually successful in their attempt to protest against these laws, right? So this was all about the farm laws, right? So thank you so much for this topic, right? Thank you so much.